Hi, I'm Valerie Engelhart, and in this video I am going to be painting a still life scene of a cup of coffee on a saucer with a lot of lavender. So I'm starting this painting using a cup that I'd gotten from my sister a couple years ago. It's just such a pretty cup and I like holding on to things. And one of the great things about just having random circular objects lying around is I can't draw or paint a perfect circle, but I can paint on the rim of something that's a circle and stamp it onto paper. And so that's what I've done here. Pre-planned, I grabbed a couple of circular objects, made sure they were roughly the size what I needed, and started with the coffee. And the color of the coffee is aptly named Americano, and it is by Rockwell Art. So I just laid down a base wash of the color, and now I am adding shadow to the top, and I'm going to be making the opposite side much lighter. And I'm going to be doing that by lifting some of the paint and just by adding clean water. And the reason that I'm going to add the clean water instead of just lifting the paint is it's going to create a watercolor bloom or cauliflower. And I really like that added texture. It's something that you really only find in watercolor. And while some artists cringe at it, I embrace it because it's just fun and it's part of what watercolor will naturally do. So now I'm grabbing, this is a former takeout container. It used to hold something like butter chicken and was cleaned out thoroughly and kept in my office so that I can use it for things like this. So I'm not a hoarder. I just keep things that will eventually be useful to me. And for this, I like to add a bit of bling to my art, so I pulled out some Holbein Brilliant Gold Gouache, and I just have my brush. It's like a size 4 round. It's an Arteza brand, and the bristles are synthetic, and they're actually like splayed a little bit. It's not a very nice brush, but it is exactly what I need it to be. And so I'm just painting along the rim, and this paint is not sticking very well to this plastic rim of the container, but that's fine. I don't want a perfect, clean circle. I want some of it to be thicker, thinner, fade away, to give it a more rustic look. Now I'm taking a while to really position myself. I'm even looking at the camera to make sure I have it centered, and spoiler alert, it's not. But that's okay because a lot of the painting is going to be covered in lavender blossoms. And honestly, the mark is made. There's nothing I can do. I'm gonna roll with it. Because otherwise it's just gonna make a mess. If you make a slight mistake, if you just roll with it, more times than not, people won't even realize you made a mistake. It's something that only you realize. So I'm just like, I can't change it. Let's just keep going. But look at how that water in the coffee is pushing some of that pigment. It just, oh, I love the effects of watercolor. Now I've grabbed my size 10 Princeton Neptune brush, and I've got a very light value of Paliba Diamond Blue. It's one of my favorite colors. All of the colors I'm going to use in this, with the exception of that gouache, is going to be by Rockwell Art. So I picked the Paliba Diamond Blue because, well, one, I love that color and it gives a nice shadow where it's not like dark and dull. There's a bit of liveliness to it and some warmth. But I do want to reflect that coffee color just because my lavender's not going to have any brown. So I do want to tie that saucer into my cup color-wise. So just adding a very light value of that Americano brown. And I am negative painting right now, painting around what would be the rim and the handle of this coffee cup. Right now, I'm on the other side of the coffee cup, the part that is casting a shadow, and so I'm painting that cast shadow in that Paliba Diamond Blue. And because it's a cast shadow, it is going to be ever so slightly a darker value than the saucer. And then I'm going to drop in a little bit of that Americano color. But there's no sketch here. This is all freehand. So just go in with confidence. It'll work out. And if it doesn't, there are ways to get out of it. So just have fun. But look, by just painting away from that brown circle and leaving that area white and unpainted, it is now the bright white rim of a cup. Now in my reference image, the cup has a line on the handle, and I really like that because it makes the cup thematically match the saucer that it's with. They both have a little gold accent, so I'm painting that in now. Just because I've already got the gold out, may as well. And I'm just pulling it straight from the tube. That's the other reason why. That way I wasn't having to uncap it, recap it, uncap it, recap it. I could just do it all at roughly the same time. And one thing I like about this particular painting is I never had to pull out the blow dryer. The way that this painting with its components worked out is I was able to plan each element and then let it dry naturally while still getting to work on another element. And so that is a bit of planning that I would recommend in a watercolor painting. Just sit down for a few minutes, study your reference image, and try to paint it in your head to get a good idea of where do you want to start? How do you want to connect your pieces together, but also allow for drying time? And I'm just still going gaga over those watermarks I'm getting in the coffee cup. Just, isn't watercolor neat? All right, now I am pulling out my Princeton Neptune. It is like it has a few names. There's like sword brush, dagger brush, angled liner, but with whatever name it is a soft brush that is cut at an angle that I love to use for like foliage and like really thin, wispy, but kind of organic looking lines. It's really good for like thick and thin. And I've used the Rockwell Art Tree Sprite. I like it because it is a cooler green and it splits into a purple color so that it has like purple undertones. And since lavender is purple, I was like, oh, that's perfect. And that is a really fun thing about granulating paints, is that some of them will split and have different colors inside. So like I said, this particular green is green, but there's purple in it. So if I added like a bunch of water, the pigments would start to separate and you would get to more distinctly see the purple. But I'm using it neatly. I'm not adding a ton of water, so it still means that it will complement the purple that I'm going to add very well. And I like a little more visual interest, and I have that Paliba Diamond blue in the shadows, so now I am adding that same blue color to the foliage. All right, I'm going back to my small, bristly, synthetic round brush, and now I'm going to be going through a tedious process of painting in all of the little segments of the lavender. I'm going to be primarily using Rockwell Art Royal Purple, and I'm going to also be using Valentine Purple. Valentine Purple is that bluer, more opaque kind of, I don't want to say lavender, but it's very similar to the Daniel Smith color of lavender. It's just, I would say, slightly warmer and maybe a little less opaque, but it's very similar. But for this entire thing, I am just going to be going back and forth with my purples, and then every so often going in and dropping in some of that green just to connect those blossoms to the stalk that they're on. So even though the majority of this painting has been done in real time, so you can see how long I take between pieces, while this part was fun and meditative, and I like getting lost in the process, tedious is definitely a word, and I'm sure it's even more tedious to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, enjoy some music, and I'll just pop in anytime I can come up with a tip. All right, now that I've got those stalks on the right side painted, it's looking a little stiff to me, so I'm just going in and I want a little more freedom, a little more pizzazz. So I've just got a very loose, watery wash of that royal purple, loaded up my size 10 round brush, and I'm just flicking it. I did use my hand to shield the coffee cup because I didn't want the purple. Like when you're throwing paint, it's a little hard to control. And maybe sometime I should post a picture of the wall behind my desk because it is a speckled rainbow mess. But another thing you can do is like put down a piece of paper just to block off the areas that you don't want to splatter. But splattering with watercolor is fun. And while I'm at it, do you see that I am now back to working on lavender, but when I get to that stalk, I start to scrub the paper with my brush. And I'm doing that scrubbing to lift off that stalk so that the little flowery parts can visually be in front of it. So this is a lesson, this part anyway, on knowing your paper. So the paper I am using is Fabriano 1264. It is a student grade paper, and I'm pretty sure it's a cotton and like a wood pulp mix. And so it's really inexpensive, which is great if you just want to practice and you don't want to like have the anxiety of, oh man, well, what if I mess up my really super expensive, pretty watercolor paper? Well, I can practice on this one. Now, I will say practicing on the good paper is, well, a good thing to do so that you understand how that paper works, because different papers, even professional grade papers of the same press type, like cold press, rough press, hot press, sometimes just different manufacturers, they will behave a little differently. So on one hand, I recommend getting cheap paper so that you can practice without any fear. On the other hand, don't be afraid to use your really good paper. That's how you're going to learn and grow as an artist. But back to knowing your paper's qualities and what it's good for, I know that this paper, paint lifts off of it really easily. So for me, who likes to scrub color off, that's great for me. So I knew when doing this, oh, I can make one clean continuous line and then just scrub off the pieces I don't need. The pigment will merge with my purple and it'll look really cohesive. I already knew that going in. But if you are the sort who wanted to paint a really close-up botanical where those petals are so silky and you're going to be doing anywhere from 5 to 20 watery glazes, that is not an exaggeration. There are some paintings that are beautiful, glowing, full of light and life that you would not be able to achieve with this particular kind of paper just because its properties do not allow for it. But this paper is great for scrubbing. So if you want a paper where you can easily scrub off pigment, Fabriano 1264. I got it like at a buy one, get one free down in Blix in Seattle. And it's been fantastic for what I need it to do. All right, coming up on the end here, I'm finishing up my lavender now, and I'm going to do some splatter on that left side, just like on the right. So just get a watery mix of whatever's already on my palette, using my hand to cover the coffee cup. A little bit got on the saucer, that's fine, that doesn't bother me because I'm imagining that it's like there's a breeze and little bits of it are flying off, and so a couple dots around the coffee cup fine, but I don't want it in my coffee. I like my coffee without flowers in it, personally. But there we go. And I just really like the way this painting makes me feel. I, like many people, love a good cup of coffee. And being able to incorporate flowers into that in a way that almost takes me to... I can just imagine sitting in a little villa overlooking lavender fields. It's just sometimes so great how you can put yourself in a whole other location just through art. All right, just gotta sign it and then I'm gonna call it done. And here's the finished painting. If you liked this video, press that like button so I know to make more like it. And if you have any suggestions for what you want me to paint, please let me know in the comments. I'm always on the lookout for new subjects and techniques to try. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. I post every Monday and Thursday. All right, bye.